Okay, here we are. This is the 1980 Beach Boy album, Keeping the Summer Alive. We left the Captain and Tennille's studio, Rumbo, where we finished dubbing down, in other words, reducing from 24-track to 2-track, the album. By the way, I saw Donovan over there today checking it out. There's a face from the past. I really did. Anyway, we finished tonight about 6, and we came over here, it's 9 o'clock, to Kendon, which is a recording complex that also has mastering facilities. That's kind of the last stage before it becomes a mechanical process of metal plating and pressing records. Mm. And what we're doing is we're doing the final tune-up to the record. You know, basically you're adding bass or treble or anything in between, or pulling the highs out or the lows out or whatever you need to do, speeding it up, cutting the spaces between the end of one song and the beginning of another a little shorter, or making them longer. It's the last chance.
That's Bruce Johnston, producer of the new Beach Boys album, Keeping the Summer Alive.
And I just wanted to make a Beach Boy album. I mean, think of it. The original members of the Beach Boys are still the original members and still out on the road. And I was always, not the extra, and not the sixth Beach Boy, but I kind of floated in for 8 years and floated out for 4 or 5. But I've always been around and doing every album. And now I'm like, who produces Cliff Richard? Bruce Welch? Mm-hmm. I'm kind of the Bruce Welch to the Beach Boys. You know, here you have a ex-member of the band that's now kind of being the objective ear. The only thing I'm nervous about is, now think of it, every Beach Boy record says produced by the Beach Boys or produced by Brian Wilson, but this time it's going to say produced by Bruce Johnston. And really, no one was around for the mixes. And each guy kind of told me, each guy in the band, they said, well, you know, why don't you drop this guitar and bring up this drum? And I have to take an average of everybody's opinion. Maybe each guy will have an opinion on the same song in a different spot. And I have to kind of take an average and then also do what I think is right for it. Mm. So the only thing that makes me nervous is whether they will like it or not, because I won't see the guys until next week or the week after when we're out on the road, and they will be hearing their album for the first time from probably tape cassettes that we make.
Here's Brian Wilson.
Do you feel happy now that you've delegated this responsibility to Bruce, the production?
Yes, I do. I think Bruce is one of the quickest, most efficient type guys to work with. He doesn't fool around. He has a really clean style, you know. Yeah. He really does, and we're real proud because he, you know.
Do you not get the itch? I mean, when you're sitting there and you're watching him, don't you think to yourself, I'd like to get in there and do that, and I
think that's what he thought about me for so many years when he used to record with us, is that he probably wanted to get in where I was, and that's what he finally did. Going On, which is another song that where it started out where one person would write and then another person would modify the song, you know, it modified the arrangement. Such is the case with a song called Going On, which Bruce Johnston came up with some really interesting ideas and turned it into what I would consider a more potentially commercial song.
The high harmonies are definitely the Beach Boys, but the other harmonies sound different.
We did that on purpose. We wanted not to be funny, actually, didn't want to be funny, but to be unique in making it sound that way. It's not a regular traditional Beach Boys sound.
Was it just a 50s feel that he was after?
For that one cut, I guess it did go in and out of that sort of a sound. It, you know, would drift into maybe a 50s sound, but we try to keep basically, by and large, the cut in every individual production somewhat in our ballpark, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We don't try to sing or sound like something we can't, you know.
Brian, you've got 6 new songs on this album. Is it 6?
So I think 5 songs, maybe 6 songs, I don't know.
Are they all brand new songs, or are they songs you've had around for a while?
No, they're new. We went over to Hawaii on a special island called Kauai, where it's just Tarzan and Jane must have lived there or something. It's really paradise. And of course we go down to the beach and sun, and we come back and we made a schedule out of writing songs, you know, not just to go have vacation. We ended up with 4 songs, Carl, Mike, and myself, in about 5-6 days. We had them. Somehow it got ingrained in the Beach Boys that if we don't do current stuff that we write, somehow people feel cheated, like, hey, that's not your song, you didn't like it, you know. And that's not the way to go. If you know, so we've gone the route of the originality, writing all the song, most of the songs, you know, for an album.
Good.
Because then I guess if somebody writes it, the group kind of has a special feeling toward it, so they're going to do it maybe about 10 times better than it, if they hadn't wrote it. School Days. A song called School Days, which Chuck Berry wrote in the 50s, and Al Jardine did the lead on that, did a great job too, real good job.
Much the same arrangement as the original?
No, actually no, it's sort of a new background. We had a very funny, like, you know, that kind of a sound, background sound.
Up in the morning and out to school.
I don't think we intended to use School Days, but Al really loved it. And we cut it originally in October 4-track, just to see what it would be like to go back to 4-track. And it really came out, well, I like it. And I played it for Al, and he continued with it, and we just put it in the album because it worked out.
Soon as 3 o'clock rolls around.
This is the Beach Boys' new album, Keeping the Summer Alive. Here's Mike Love.
Brian Wilson wrote a song many years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago. I recall him doing a song which he called Mike Come Back to L.A. And it goes, Mike Come Back to L.A. Well, I thought, that's a nice thought. But I think something a little bit more relatable and universal might be in order here. So I rewrote the lyrics and encouraged Brian to come up with a new track, which he did along with Bruce's help. And we came up with a song called Some of Your Love. It was some of your love, same melody on that part. But it was a lot of fun doing that one. I just visualize in it that it's really like a high school kind of song. It's talking about, you ought to see my favorite little acrobat. She's really got her every little move down pat. She's got my vote for #1 in the class. Couldn't help but try to make a forward pass.
Now there's a song called Keeping the Summer Alive, which is the title track for the album. And I got Carl together with Randy Bachman, who, well, you know who Randy is.
Yeah. How did that come about, though, the two of them?
Well, we were on tour, and I started talking to Randy, and after a few days, I thought it would be good for Carl to get together with another guitar player writer. And they went up to Jimmy Guercio's studio and ranch up in Colorado in the mountains and came up with Keeping the Summer Alive and Living with a Heartache. So that's 2 Randy and Carl songs for the album.
It's a really fierce vocal on that, Keeping the Summer Alive. I mean, Carl's really...
I mean, you listen to Wild Honey, that old Beach Boy album we did in '67 with Darlin' on it, and the title track Wild Honey, and you'll see where the way he sings now evolves from, you know?
It was Joe Walsh, too.
Oh, we used Joe Walsh on Keeping the Summer Alive. He played rhythm and slide, and that came out really good.
This is the new Beach Boys album, Keeping the Summer Alive. Here's Brian Wilson.
Oh, a song called When Girls Get Together, which is a real, I mean, that thing is different, you know. The lyrics are so potent, and the sound of the track in the background sounds real great. We used mandolins and marxophones, things that had a ding-a-ling-a-ling chimey sound, you know. And it just worked out fine. It was a really beautiful sound.
Now, that's an old song, right? That comes back from, what, Sunflower, was that done about that time?
Yeah, right around. Yeah.
We cut a song called When Girls Get Together it's a duet with Mike and Brian singing together. And I've always loved it, and I had a chance to put it on hold in case we didn't get enough songs that we liked. We cut about 24 songs, and that seems like a lot, but I talked to Elton a couple days ago, and he's doing his 1980 album, and he's just about finished, and he's cut 24 songs. So there must be a lot of artists that chuck a lot of them away. But When Girls Get Together holds up for me. It's an unusual track. It's got mandolins and a thing called a marxophone that sounds like a zither and a mandolin that you kind of play with a keyboard and all kinds of weird instruments.
That's When Girls Get Together. Now the new Beach Boys single, Oh Darling. Music by Brian Wilson, Words by Mike Love.
It's a song that Brian and I went to Hawaii and asked Carl to come along too. This earlier in the year, not in the year, but in 1979. When was that? October, I think, or something like that. We went to Hawaii for about a week and we wrote some songs, and that was one of them. And I don't know, I've always been into lyrics, and it's kind of neat because Brian thinks almost totally music, and I'll get a concept in lyrics and stuff, but he usually, when we collaborate on something, he lets me take the ball with the lyrics, and I spend hours fine-tuning them, you know, trying to make them mean something, I mean, make sense, as well as have the correct alliteration, rhyming, meter, you know, and nuances and stuff.
Next from the Beach Boys, a song called Santa Ana Winds. Here's Bruce Johnston.
We cut that about a year ago, and I just didn't like the track, and I dumped the whole track and put on a string bass, brushes on a snare, a guitar, you know, 2 acoustic guitars, changed the lead, sang it as a duet with Al, and kept the original harmony. It worked great.
Here in Southern California, there's a weather condition known as the Santa Ana winds.
Fire wind.
Sounds a bit folky.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, Al Jardine is kind of responsible for Sloop John B., for getting Brian to adapt it, and Cotton Fields, and Lady Linda. He's just, you know, one of those guys that he was growing up, those, you know, in those formative years, just out of high school with the Kingston Trio kind of happening, and, you know, he likes that kind of music.
Oh, our best one, my favorite, I didn't even remember, that's Sunshine. That has a reggae kind of feeling to it, with the percussiveness, and the guitars are chopping downward. They'll start on a note and they'll go doom, doom. You know, it's like it has a reggae feeling to it, and it's real super. We have a 3-part harmony lead kind of thing, where the top note sings the melody, and then the other 2 sing harmony against the melody at one time, instead of singer and background. It's a built-in thing, you know. Trio concept. Yeah, that one's good. That's really got a lot of good stuff, and I like it. I really do.
Well, Sunshine was originally called Little Girl, and I can't remember who recorded it. Probably a Phil Spector record. And Little Girl, da-da-da-da-da-da. And so we cut this track, and then we decided to write a new song to the track, and so we took part of the old song Smoky Places and whatever Brian and Mike came up with, recorded on the existing track, and we didn't have enough room because the song was too short, so we tape copied the track a few times and put 21 splices in the 24 track at tape, and stretched the song out and came out with Sunshine.
The Beach Boys have been keeping the summer alive. Here's a final word from Bruce Johnston.
I honestly have to tell you, I don't know if this is a good album or not anymore. You know, I'm just waterlogged with it, and I'm very glad not to be in the other part of the studio where Steve Desper, our engineer, is kind of going through the mastering process. I'll go and approve or disapprove of what he does, but I'm just burned out.
And Brian Wilson.
Anyway, I got to go.
Okay, are you going to be performing on this next tour? I know you're
Yes,
coming.
on this next tour will be mostly Cleveland. We're doing 8 shows in one city. You know, it'll be sort of like an amphitheater, like a kind of nightclub. You know, and then we're gonna go on to do something maybe in Florida, around that area.
I heard there were plans there to come to Britain.
Oh yeah.
Sometime
Oh yeah.
around
In June. They said
yes.
June was the time.
You're going to be there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I have a special feeling toward London. I really do. Very, very special toward it, and I've always had most of the interviews I've ever had, mostly from guys from London, which I thought just were really super guys, you know.
Well, they've got a special feeling for you too, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, thank you, and I'll be seeing you there, and thanks to all the many fans that have helped us kept going. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.